say I will not be taking any selfies with anybody here tonight. That's a lie. I'm actually quite nervous to address my hometown. There's a lot of feedback in this. I also bought this suit last year, so it's quite tight on me. So you see me kind of shuffling myself up on stage. You'll know what that is. They asked me to prepare something, some kind of speech or some kind of talk, and I suppose I'm incredibly proud of where I'm from, and I know a lot about it. So Jerry was talking about history, and there's a part of Tallaght history a lot of people don't know. Tallaght is mentioned in an ancient book called the Book of Invasions, which is the very, very first book of Irish mythology. And in a country called Scythia, which is where Iran used to be, a king called Partholon came through Greece and then came to Ireland, and the first place that he settled was Tallaght. He and all of his followers died here, and that's where Tallaght gets its name. Tom Locht na Partholoni, which literally means the plague grave of the Partholonians. He was the first king, and only one of them survived. His name was Tuon, and he lived in Ireland for Tallaght actually for 300 years until the next race of people came. And Irish mythology is a bit mad. He became a boar, and then he became a fish, and he became a stag. And when he was a fish, he got caught in a net by the king of Ulster, the Ultonians, and he fed the fish to his wife, and then she had a baby, and the spirit of Tuon was in the baby. And when St. Patrick came to Ireland, he asked, "What's the history of Ireland?" They said, "Well, look, get Tuon out of the cave, ask him." So he told St. Patrick the entire history of Ireland since the beginning of time, and he was a Tallaght man. So he told them not only the history of Ireland, but the history of Tallaght. So I was thinking about this and said, well, what is the history of Tallaght? There's obviously mail runes and the Middle Ages, but for most of us we know that Tallaght begins sometime around the 1970s. The story of Tallaght is one of community, social and affordable housing that was built in a time when we had a lot less money than we have today. Town planning would come a bit later, some would say, but we built it because we had to. We're kind of like the settlers of the Old West. They say they don't want to build more Tallahts now. I hear that a lot. Social and public and affordable housing. And when I run into a lot of media types, they always kind of allude to the idea that I am a success despite of where I come from. But I'm always at pains to tell them, I'm a success because I'm from Tallaght. A lot of our politicians don't want to build mass housing projects the way they build Tallaght. And I would say, is it better to children to live in hotels and hostels and be moved around continually than to have no community? And that's what I want to talk about, community. Or is it better to give children safety and stability and a place to grow and a community to be part of? My memories of this place are nothing but good. Friendships, memories, being part of a community. And I think some of these leaders don't understand places like Tallaght or what it is to be part of a community quite like this, because they're not from places like this. I'm talking about the ones who are in power, not the ones who might be. The idea of individualism is something that in the latter part of the 20th century is championed by most governments in the West. It's this idea that each citizen looks after themselves in a vicious form of competitiveness. And somehow that brings about efficiency and affords these great individuals that beat a path for the rest of us to, follow in. These are people that care only about striving ambition and their own ambition at all costs. But tonight we celebrate not the individual who looks out for themselves, but posits themselves within the heart of the community and sees themselves as part of something bigger. And they look at Tallaght and they say, how can I help it? Stay with me now on this one. I read something interesting and I wanted to say. It's about economics, really briefly. Kate Raworth's book, Donut Economics. She redraws the graphs of how classic economists see the world. This, the circular flow diagram, flow of income on a blank page. So energy and society, power relations, people, none of these things are ever in those pictures. It creates the impression that it's a closed, self-generating loop. Matter, energy, they flow in and out again, and the fundamental resource flow is not the money, but the energy that flows through it, and that includes people. It obliges us to recognise that all economic activity is embedded in the Earth's living systems and our society. This place, it belongs to us and it belongs to the world in which we live. It also reminds us, and this is the most important thing, that we are not just workers. We're not just consumers. We're not owners of capital. We are citizens, members of families, members of communities, volunteers, cooperators. We are active citizens with shared ideas and values. We are the games and the sports that we play, the story and the culture and the art that we make, the people that build businesses for the community and they serve it and they help it to grow. We celebrate all of these people here tonight. We're celebrating the next generation with our youth and the people who are helping to tackle the most important question of our times, the most prescient question of our times and the future, the environment. Tonight we honour all of those people. We have the heart of gold, young people who have gone above and beyond. Jamie Burchill, Jodie Darcy, Katie Black, Jacob Garner. I'd also like to make a special mention to the carers in our society and our community. And this isn't hyperbole and it's not sentimental, but I genuinely mean this. Carers are heroes in our community. They do a job and they don't do it for praise. And they do it because maybe no one else will. And tonight is about letting those people know we recognise your work. It isn't always visible, but we recognise it. And I would like to say that these wards will recognise it and that we see you, our carers. You are visible to us and thank you. I won't bore you with too much stuff, but I just like to end on something that I've been thinking about and that I've been writing about lately, and that's the idea of accent. Your accent is something that people used to try and change when I was growing up. Speak properly. Something I've often heard growing up. It's like, what does that mean? People used to get sent to speech and drama lessons. If you had an accent, who you were and the way you spoke, for some reason it wasn't good enough. Who you are on an island like this is based so much on accent and how you sound. The prejudice that we had against groupings of people sometimes is predicated on accent alone, because previous to this we were a monocultural society. Basically people thought that your accent dictated your intellect, your intelligence, your character based on how you sounded. So there was a lot of weight on that, and there still is. I've learned to be freed up by your accent. Your accent is a tool. It's indicative of who you are. It's indicative about your family, your friends, your experience and where you're from. It gives you a sense of place. It's a crucible in which you are forged. The new Irish coming in, they have a new Irish accent, and that's part of where they're from and their family, and now that is also part of our shared community and collective identity. We should embrace our accents and be confident in our accent. And I really mean that for every accent. It doesn't matter where you're from. Don't let anybody ever tell you, and I say this to young people as well, coming from Tallaght, to speak correctly. Because the idea of anybody on the island of Ireland speaking correctly is a nonsense when we all mangle the English language. Where I'm from, has influenced my writing, my work, my art, my life, and who I am as a person has been forged in this place. We should embrace it. Embrace how you sound, embrace where you're from, because where you're from is something to be proud of. And I am proud to be from Tallaght. Thank you.
That's it, everybody. Please stand up. Please show your appreciation. Well done, it. But also to Cherry. You absolutely amazing people. Well done.